Welcome back everyone, John Panio here with another video. Today we're going to be doing a quick character showcase of our boy Hongru, but we're going to be doing his Kurokumo Wakashu costume, or identity if you will. He's not that leveled up, so we're just going to give him a little bit of juice. We're going to get him to at least level 15 first to make sure he is, you know, somewhat playable. He's actually a very strong standalone unit, specifically for this skill here, which we'll get to shortly. His skill 1 is a base power of 4 with a coin flip of potential +6 if you land on heads, and if the attack connects, it deals 2 bleed to the enemy. We have Cloud Cutter. What ends up happening is before the attack, if the target has less than 4 bleed, use coin 1 and 2 an additional time, and if it hits, its on hit is inflict 1 bleed, and on hit for its second hit is inflict 2 bleed. So what that means is if your coin flips fail on your first 2 flips, you get a free 2 coin flip if your opponent has less than 4 bleeds to it. But even if you don't miss and you hit, you get to use your coin flips again. So this essentially is a 4 coin toss from 5 to +4, essentially going up to a max of 19 if all your coins, actually no, going to a max of 21 if all your coins miss, because you get 16 from 4 coins and up to 5. So this could be potentially a 21 power flip, which is really insane. We also have a skill 3, which is combat start. The skill applies 1 additional stack of bleed and also paralysis. So essentially this skill can inflict up to 6 bleed and 6 paralysis, which is pretty nutty. His passive also relates to bleed as well. If you have 3 of these little brown colors, the last coin on the last skill in the chain inflicts bleed up to a certain amount of stacks, so it's less res divided by 3. So I'm guessing if you only have 3, you get an extra 1 point of bleed, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. But if you get Syndicate Payback, if you have 4 of these, 1 ally with the highest speed inflicts 1 bleed, which is pretty nice. So you're able to chain out bleeds pretty quickly. So I'm going to showcase it with this team right here. We're going to be doing it in stage 3-4, because this is where you're going to hint at most of your checkpoint for your DPS check. So we're going to head in here, and we're going to be using Don Quixote, or Don Quixote, because she's got a ego that applies bleed. Base Rodion, because she does a lot of damage, or she does bleed as well. We're using Otis and also Sinclair, because this is kind of the only team comp that makes sense. Nobody can really make the affinity work properly. We're using Otis and Sinclair because Sinclair can use the greens a little bit and he can apply Rupture, but not only that though, he gets a lot of pride. So we're going to be looking to chain a lot of egos together. So let's get right into it. So from my experience with 2-star Honglu is that people really like this character, and I think I understand why. It has the same thing that tier 3 or 3-star Ting Tang Gang leader Honglu has, which is he's a very good standalone unit by himself, and he works very well in just a typical bleed build. So right now we're just using our bleed build, and sure, let's go with this. And probably right at turn 1, oh well, no, at turn 1 I don't think we can even use our ego right yet, but this comp is really good at just chaining egos. It's really quick at building ego, and oh lord, our Honglu is taking a ton of damage. And we're also using not the best affinity for this battle, so it's probably gonna suck, but we got our Cloud Burst, which is good, but as you can see we're down like negative 20% because the enemy is weak to blunt and very strong to pierce, but luckily Slash is neutral. She's gonna get bodied. Rodion's getting messed up, but it makes sense. She's base character. We're looking at Cloud Cutter. Oh, look at that. So, enemy right there went from basically full health to almost dead, and we have Otis finishing out. So you can see, enemy is very strong, and right here we can already use Rodia's ego, which is pretty nuts. So we can click that out, because this team is really centered around Don Quixote's ego as well as Rodia's ego. you're going to be building up a ton because you're going to be using a lot of blue skills and you're going to be using a lot of those brown skills, which also in turn leads up to building up Rhodia skill and also Donku's. So Donku's skills applies bleed, but also Rhodia. Rhodia's skills also applies a good chunk of bleed, which is pretty good. Sinclair is here because he can apply a lot of pride, which is the blue skill, which also helps with Rhodia. As you can see, I technically could have used her ego, but staggered, of course, our boys are staggered, unfortunate. But as you can see, we're kind of able to clear through this stage. We're clear through 2 guys already. Okay, perfect. We just clips that. Nice. Oh, don't like that clash. Okay, perfect. Made it through. Okay, finally. Okay, so that enemy is staggered, but we're just gonna keep smacking that down. All right. Halberd combo and this person is okay because we're doing slash damage, so it should be okay. Can we get a stagger? Okay, we do. Lovely. And since we have the enemy staggered, we can just use our weaker skills, so we don't have to use our strong skills. So based off of this, we're just going to use all our weaker skills and keep our strong skills for later. So let's do that. Get rid of the weak skills. Perfect. And we can do this right now. Donku's has her skill up, so we can use this. Use a gallop. Use his strong skill, use his strong skill, her skill. Any egos here? No. We'll just go strong. Ooh, these all suck. But that's okay. Let's just go with green for hustle. We could do hustle. Sure, we'll do green for hustle. And we'll go blue for pride. So we get Sinclair's activation, and we get also Ryoshu's activation for their passive. Now, ideally, when you're on wave 1, turn 1, or the first turn of a wave, ideally you want to be able to stagger the enemy. So you want to win your clashes. The big thing about this game is it runs off of momentum. If you're winning, you will keep winning. If you're behind the ball game, you will have a hard time clawing back from a losing situation. So this game right now, how it is, it's very momentum heavy. It's very much swing heavy. As you can see, Hulong right here is using his his third skill, Cloud Burst. And Cloud Burst, as you can see, is going to do a solid amount of damage, almost a third of the enemy's HP. But his Cloud Burst, his second skill, did almost the enemy's full HP, which is insane. So let's just give you guys like a little interesting little demo. I mean, all our units are probably gonna get like annihilated here. Actually, okay, I was thinking of doing something crazy, but maybe not. Let's go back into her. We can use her lead skill again, and let's use Cloud Burst and hope this works. So Don Quixote, oh, actually that was a terrible idea. I should not have used Don Quixote's skill on a staggered enemy. The reason why is because this enemy is staggered. Me using my strongest skill on the staggered unit is kind of a waste because this ego could have been used to fight a clash that I would not have been able to beat, but whatever, not a big deal. But at least now you guys know. But because the enemy has, you know, staggered, this person's probably gonna die. But as a result, bleed stack kind of goes to waste because no bleed, no nothing. And our Hongru is staggered, unfortunate, but we're able to trigger. So we're able to use the egos of the other characters. And as you can see, this team builds ego really quickly, which is very nice. But even though it builds ego up really quickly, it does definitely struggle because I'm right now using these base units and they're kind of underleveled. But as you can see, we're still making progress through this map. Don Quixote has used her ego at least 3 times in this stage, which is like nuts when you think about it, which is usually really hard to just even channel 1. But Don Quixote is here because she can use her ego quite a bit. Otis is here because she does a lot of damage and she provides like a lot of useful affinities to our team, and she can also pump out a good amount of damage. And as you can see, we're using her to get the clash on the enemy. Ideally, we want to be able to do it so that the enemy gets staggered, so that way they lose their turn. But then that might not always be the case. And this person is enduring the damage. This person, and quite we're just shy of the staggering. It looks like our boy is going to take a ton of damage again, but this time, okay, we definitely want to use her skill to get the stagger, dominating, struggling, dominating, all the struggles. Can we use her skill? No, that's okay. We'll just plow through normally. I would technically use Don Quixote's ego, but because she's acting slower, I don't really want to use her when she's at a slow speed. Because she might potentially die, and if she dies and you use her egos and has it procced up and she dies with her ego queued up, you will lose all the affinity to that character, even if it's not used. If you've procced it, it's ready to go, but they get staggered, those affinities that you have completely down the drain, useless. So hopefully with this backslash we'll be able to stagger. Okay, good. We're able to stagger this enemy, so they'll lose a turn, but they're probably going to heal up, unfortunately, because their passive is at 50% less HP. They'll heal up, which is very sad. But with Cloud Cutter, as you can see, we are doing, we one-tap that guy. That guy was basically at full health, and Cloud Burst one-shot him. That is why this character is so, like, busted, even though I'm using a really weak team. Oh, look at that. This character is busted. As you can see, staggered enemy, 2 more units alive, but we still have our Cloud Burst available, and with that, this guy's basically dead. Obviously, it's turn 10, so even though we use the weak characters, it's still turn 10 and we are able to take down this boss. I'm not going to finish the stage only because I'm going to save up my mana. Me beating the stage doesn't prove anything, but this battle's won. It's turn 10. We finished this in 10 turns, and with a under-leveled and also base tier character. And as you can see, it is possible to beat the stage with just the base characters, as well as doing enough damage to be able to damage check through these enemies, especially if you know what you're doing. I'm going to swap over to a slightly stronger account, so that way you can see how strong he is in conjunction with just a stronger team. So let's go over here and use these characters, but let's keep the bleed characters in, because the bleed characters are nice. So let's just make sure we have synergy with our bleed. So we have our bleed character in. Perfect. Let's get rid of you. We'll keep you, and we'll swap. Well, we have to swap you out for sure because we're showcasing you, not you. And okay, this should look good. We don't have any glooms. We have a lot of this. We probably want more fires, but if we want to add a gloom, I could add Faust. You know what? We'll add our boy Heathcliff, because even though we're not generating gloom, we're not going to be using the people's gloom, because Honglu, Gregor are basically the 2 people that are going to have to use gloom. So we're going to be using Rodia and Don Quixote's skill. So with this team right here, you'll see that we're going to be able to do a lot of damage, and we're going to be chaining a lot of egos just with this. Even though affinities, like I said, don't really match up really well, this one is going to be just focused on chaining specific egos. And as long as you have like a good team comp, you can avoid certain affinities and just hope that those don't show up as much, and you can clear through the content by just, number 1, ego chaining, and number 2, using your stronger skills to be able to stagger the enemy first. So, first turn, we did not get our blue Cloud Burst, but we did get our skill right here. But we should be able to apply Cloud Burst, which will still be able to apply bleed. So, Cloud Burst is going off, this enemy's at full HP, we were able to do the full stack of damage, and it did like a quarter of their health, which is okay. So, his 3rd skill is not as strong as his 2nd skill. Now, we're going to try to get to his 2nd skill and see how much damage he does. The 3rd skill was able to almost kind of stagger the enemy, or it did stagger the enemy, so it is still some really solid damage for a 3rd skill, and it's got a really high base, so it's not that difficult to proc. Now, no, unfortunately we did not get a Cloud Burst skill, but that is okay. Even with a team like this, even though I'm not really synergizing with bleed that hard, it still works pretty well. Because as a standalone character, even though I'm not playing a full bleed build, he is very, very strong. And just using stronger characters in this team makes it really well. As long as you use the core of just Don Quixote and Rodia, you're actually pretty well. Like, that's going to be the base of your team. Ideally, and what I mean by ideally, is you have a 3-star Ryoshu, because 3-star Ryoshu has bleed as well. 3-star Rhodia, because Rhodia's bleed is much stronger in your 3-star form and it's just better. And you use Don Quixote because Don Quixote has her bleed ego. And ideally, you probably want to have Don Quixote, I believe, as not 3rd tier, but potentially 2 tier, because I'll apply her affinities a little bit better. But as you can see, I already have the affinity for Don Quixote, and I guess if I really wanted to, I could do Heathcliff, and I probably will. And we'll go into... actually, hold that thought. Don't be like me. We're not using ego. Reason being is this. We don't want to use ego because these guys are all staggered, so they are just going to die normally. I mean, you want to use the weak skills. Because you want to be able to get rid of the weak skills, because these guys are staggered. So don't use your strong skills when the enemy's all staggered like this. Use your weak skills. Get rid of the weak skills so that way you can load up your stronger skills on the next turn. Because these guys are all staggered, they're not going to resist, you're going to take extra damage, they're going to die. That way, don't waste your strong skills on them. You want to use your strong skills to stagger the enemies with the weaker skills. And what happens is, what will happen now is we're going to have a really strong turn going into this first turn. So we're going to have a bleed skill ready. We're going to have his beatdown skill ready. We're not going to have that ready, but that's okay. So we're going to use ego, Cloudburst, strong skill, and we're just going to strong skill everything as much as we can. So we're using the strongest skill we have possible to be able to just take down the enemy. Okay, let's go. So, the only unfortunate thing about battling like this is because this is not an abnormality battle, we can't actually use the priority system of our speed, and it's all kind of random. It just goes in order of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so you don't get to choose your target. It's just going to go in order of the enemy's skill, which is fine. But in battles like this, you ideally want to be able to stack up bleed on just one person, but having it spread out is kind of okay, but it is what it is. Now, you want to be able to do as much damage in the beginning, so that way you stagger the enemy, and when you stagger the enemy you can act more, which is the best. And from what I found out is, if you actually kill an enemy, you actually gain initiative back. So if you stack up all your units to attack one enemy and that enemy dies, it goes back to your turn and the enemy doesn't get a turn. I know. It's all good. So, when you're going through this, you ideally want to be able to use the strongest moves first. Unfortunately though, even though we're trying to use the strongest move, Rhodia, her skill doesn't have a strong base, so she's going to get destroyed. But it's weird because just not attacking is kind of better. And alright, so we have his skill back up, and we could use it, but it's not good to use it, and like I said before, because enemy is staggered, no point using it. So we'll just attack them normally. Now we have double cloud burst, so we will use the double cloud burst to just show you guys how much damage this team can really do. Blue, lots of blue, but we don't really get anything with blue, so you know what, it's fine. We'll do blue, green, here. All right, perfect. So this unit should die, hopefully, but if not, it's okay. This person's staggered, so his cloudburst is gonna do a ton of damage. Ooh, okay, our cloudburst got wasted on weak enemies, but you know what, that's fine. But as you can see here, Cloudburst, very, very strong skill. It is basically overkill because it can, as you saw before, almost one-shot an enemy unit if all the heads hit. And not even if all the heads don't hit, as long as the enemy has less than 4 bleed, you're going to be doing a ton of damage. And as you can see here, it is currently right now turn 7, and the enemy is dead on this turn. I'm not going to finish it, because save stamina, not worth. So, as you can see here, Hongwu, Kurokumo, Wakashu identity, very strong. It's very useful, and he can work standalone. Obviously, ideally you want to have units that work with bleed as well, but you're not always going to get the best units. The only 2 that can apply it consistently is number 1, Rodion, ideally her 3-star, or 3-star version, or Ryoshu, get her 3-star version, because her 3-star version has that ability where she can apply massive bleed bleed, 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 bleed. And the other one is 3-star Rodion. Bleed, 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 bleed. Inflict 10 bleed on crit if the enemy has bleed. So those are basically your main bleed characters, and it's honestly quite strong. As you can see, very strong standalone unit, but also very effective if you build a bleed comp around it. Very, very strong. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know in the questions comment section down below. Please let me know what have you found this character. I haven't experienced this character much, and I haven't had the full team comp to be able to experience a full bleed build. So let me know down in the comment section down below if you have him and if he's very good. Anyways, John Panio signing off. See you guys later. Bye for now.